Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Project Positive Planet. Today, joining us is Monique and Miss Kim. The theme of is healing. Hi, welcome, guys.
It's good to be here on a Friday.
Yeah, welcome, everybody. Kim, would you like to kick us off?
I would love to. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We truly appreciate you tuning in on this Green Friday for planet-based healing. And Stephanie, thank you for hosting us and helping make this happen. Our distinguished guest today, delighted to welcome Monique Blake. Monique is a station she goes to as a very inspiring woman in many, many ways. But Monique states and says to herself and shares with us, as above, so below. Monique, can you expound upon that as well as please define astrology for us as we move into our cosmos conversation today on planet-based healing?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you, Stephanie and Kim, for having me today. And this is one of my favorite topics to talk about. And as you said, as above, so below, we are definitely connected with everything in the universe. And, I have a very personal relationship with astrology. For me, it is definitely a guide to help you understand your life's purpose. And that's, of course, if we choose to answer the call, right? What I love about astrology is that, we talk about people being unique. This is something that we talk about in theory all the time. We talk about people, there's no one else on the planet like you. Only you have that fingerprint. And so we talk about this in theory, but there are very few places where we actually experience our uniqueness. And for me, I'm a certified Ayurvedic practitioner as well. And for me, astrology and Ayurveda are those modalities that actually give you the experience of uniqueness. So it's no longer something you just talk about, it's something that you actually experience. With astrology, your uniqueness shows up in your natal chart. That's a snapshot of the universe when you took your first breath. And so there's no one on the planet that has that same experience. Even if you have someone who's born on the same day, the same time, but they're in a different location, they're going to live a completely different experience. If you have someone who's born at the same day, but a different time, they're going to have a completely different experience. Even twins that are born a few minutes apart, they will have a similar experience, but they still will have that unique drive, that unique experience in life. And this is what I feel is the power of astrology, is to have everyone really claim their uniqueness as an experience. And, if they choose to kind of optimize their experience on the planet. And that's astrology for me.
That's very interesting, and it raises a question for our listeners and our own understanding. What is the difference then, Monique, between astrology and our horoscope? Are they the same or different? Turning to the newspaper, reading our star sign or sun sign, how is that different than understanding the deeper meaning and significance of our astrology? And Monique was frozen.
Because
Monique, we're having a little bit of trouble hearing
you. This doesn't work. It doesn't speak to me. Right? They are different things. And
I think she went to another planet.
Astrology.
She did. Monique, I think you're having some issues. Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, you're back.
Can you?
Well, yes.
Okay, I'm back. So where did I leave off? Did you hear
we
that we're talking about the difference?
No, we thought you went to another planet for a minute. So
we thought you were teleporting.
I probably did. I'm back. To talk about the difference, I was saying that, it's a great question. It's a great question because this is usually the place where people, say, this doesn't work, right? Because they read their horoscope and it says, this doesn't resonate with me. Or how could it speak to everyone that's in that sign? And so those are very, very valid questions. A horoscope, if you just look at the word, it's a horo means time and scope is to look at time. So it's really just a general picture of the sun's path, through different, the sun traveling in time through different stars. Whereas astrology, when you look at the word and break it down, astrology means the study of the stars. So even in just definition, they're different things. And with astrology, with horoscopes, I should say, when you look into the newspaper, or nobody reads newspapers anymore, but maybe when you go online, good. When you read the newspaper, the three of us who still do that, and anyone else that looks online or goes on an app and they see their horoscope, they're only looking at one thing. They're looking at their sun sign. And the sun is just one part of your natal chart. So you have as above, so below. So in the planets, we have the two luminaries. We have the sun, we have the moon, and then we have the planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, etc. We have all of that in our chart as well. So it's not just one thing that we're looking at that makes you unique. We're really looking at all the different planets in our chart, where they are, what signs they're in, and how they're relating to other things in the chart. This is kind of what makes the full story. So if you're looking at your horoscope and you're only reading your sign, you're only looking at one thing in your very big, beautiful chart.
Excellent. So the chart usually consists of a rising sign and different aspects in our planetary placement as a unique being in the universe.
Yes, and I think more and more people are kind of understanding that. I see people talking about their rising sign. I see people talking about where their Venus is. Venus is becoming very popular now, so people are looking at what sign their Venus is in. And so people are getting a bigger awareness that they're more than just their sun sign.
That's interesting, and it raises the thought that we're all part of the big picture, but uniquely part of that picture. So is it true that women are from Venus and men are from Mars? I just got to ask.
I'm sure we're from all different planets, but no, not all women come from Venus. Not all women come from Mars. I'm actually studying a dwarf planet called Eris, and she's really much of a female warrior. So she's, she's a really nice composite of both that masculine energy and that feminine energy. And that's what we all are. We have both the masculine and feminine. So, to kind of separate this from that, we don't get to see the complete picture, and we don't tap into some of that potential that we have.
So astrology might help us realize our potential?
Say that again?
Astrology may help us realize our potential, answer that call, if we're willing to answer that call.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah, definitely. I always tell people that we have a choice. That's the other thing. A lot of times people look at astrology and say, oh, well, I'm fated to this. No, you have a choice. When you look at your planets and you look at your chart and you see the invitation that you're given, you can choose whether to take this at a skilled level and really master this, or you can choose to do it at an unskilled level. You still have a choice. There's nothing that says that you must do this. I mean, there's certain events, there's certain tendencies, certainly, that will lead you to a direction. But when you get to that direction, you have a choice.
That gives me hope. to realize that we all have these opportunities to step into a greater or a higher purpose. Should we choose to maybe take a deeper dive?
Yeah.
Definitely, I'm dominating the conversation. I apologize. I find this so interesting. Do you have any questions? Love to.
Yeah, I'm curious. Since you study this, how did astrology start? So, what's the foundation? Who started to decode all of this? And
it's one of those really ancient arts and sciences. It goes back to just about, so many ancient cultures. And I think I was talking to Kim, we were talking a little bit about it was a little different back in ancient civilizations where astrology was and astronomy where they were one, there was no separation. People had a lot more time to study the stars. They weren't, running up and down. They had a different work-life balance, let's put it that way. So they had an opportunity to study the stars, to see where they were in the universe, and to notice the patterns that were around them. And so they really understood the science of astrology. And it was a little different back then because astrologers were more advisors to kings. They needed to know when certain events would happen and what it would mean to their kingdom or just their space of being a king or a leader. And so it's evolved to a point where we're now more in charge of our own personal development. So we're not depending on a king or a queen or some leader to define what will happen for the masses. So we are very much in charge of our own personal evolution at this point. And so you see that in this day and age versus way back when, and you find astrology, to answer your question, in ancient Egypt, in ancient Babylon, in ancient Greece, Rome. You find it in all of those ancient societies. They were stargazers. And now the importance of us as individuals stepping into the role of elevating ourselves consciously. We have a lot more access to our charts in the masses, where back in ancient civilizations that wasn't the case. Back in civilizations, there was no one working, in the kitchen going for an astrology reading.
Got it. That was guide, as you mentioned, to the kings or the rulers, part of their guidance.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to right now in 2020. If we were to do an astrological look at what is going on in the planetary alignment for this planet in the world. I really enjoyed our conversation yesterday during the Tech Check, Monique, when you mentioned that there's a perspective and some planetary alignments that happen that are indeed confirming where we are right now in this power struggle, for lack of a better word.
Yes, definitely 2020 was a year that many people in the astrological circles were waiting for, because it was this opportunity to really create a shift in consciousness on different levels. And it really started with looking at two planets coming together, meeting. It was Pluto and Saturn. And Pluto is a very interesting planet. Pluto is, and I really look at planets, again, more holistically. So, you look at people and they say, oh, it's all bad. Pluto is all bad. But there is opportunity in everything. So there's an opportunity to look at both sides of Pluto to get a more rounded picture. But Pluto is definitely about power. So Pluto is about power. If you remember the mythology, Pluto is the lord of the underworld. So Pluto really represents, this idea of what is breaking down, because this is where the underworld is. It has to do with endings. It has to do with our shadow side. And it definitely talks about power, how we use it. If we're using it for manipulation, if we're using it for obsession, or if we're using it to create some kind of transformation. So Pluto is about power. Then we have Saturn, and Saturn is, often talked about as the great teacher. He is the great teacher, and he really helps supports with creating structure, which sometimes feels like limitations. He's very much about what is real and reality. And he's also, the silver lining with Saturn is that even though the experience might be challenging and uncomfortable, the outcome is to stay the course so that you will get the reward. And he's also the over agriculture. So it's that same kind of concept. You plant the intention, you seed the intention, you follow the course, and then you will reap the harvest. So that's the outcome of Saturn. No matter how uncomfortable it is, he is pushing you to grow. So you have these two planets coming together in the sign of Capricorn. And Capricorn is definitely about authority. It is about social order. It's about status quo. So you have these two planets coming together, and they met exactly on January 12th. I believe it was January 12th of 2020. And so it gives you, this is our opportunity to re-examine, our thoughts around social constructs of authority, social constructs around power, and what we need to break down in a very Pluto way, for us to grow in a very Saturn way and create a new world order. And so this is something that is not just for, I've said this for a long time. Collective shifts in consciousness starts with individual shifts in consciousness. So this is for each one of us to see where we want to show up with our power. Power is a tricky word in our society because it is often misused. It is often abused. And so the real definition of power is to express who you are fully and completely, going back to that concept of uniqueness. If there is no one else on the planet like you, then there is no one else that can stand in their power and express what you have to share with the world at this moment. So it's this idea of true power, which is standing in your full expression of yourself.
That's powerful. That's so inspiring.
That's the opportunity that we have.
Do you see all of this culminating on November 3rd?
Stephanie, I would love to say that I could give you a clear understanding. I will tell you that my interest is not so much of the predictive, but there are lots of people who will share their opinion on that. But what I will say is that that wherever we are now, it is something that we have invited into our collective consciousness for this opportunity to deconstruct and to grow.
Yes.
So we would maybe not have done that 5-10 years ago. Now we are empowered with the energy and infused with the energy of the planets and the universe as we move forward individually and collectively. Does that answer your question?
That's beautiful. Yeah.
That's enlightening. Stephanie, go ahead, please. You had something to say?
Yeah, I was curious as well. Are you someone that I had a dear friend that's an astrologer and also a medium, and she would do past life regressions for me and reports. Is that something that you work in as well, or?
There are parts in the chart that speak about, past lives. And so that is something that I look at. For me personally, I've never had to look at astrology for past lives. I usually get that information through dreams or visions or different ways. But it is something that can be looked at. There's certain things in the chart that speak to past lives. What I find interesting in astrology, which is for me really helpful as we move into owning our own life, is that you can look at the generational energy in the chart. So a lot of times we show up and we are like, why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep repeating it? And a part of that might be that this is a very subconscious pattern, family pattern that you are repeating. And then you have, with your awareness and consciousness around it, you have an opportunity to unravel that. So that was a great question. I love past lives. Yes.
I was curious. So we are entering the age of Aquarius, kind of like the song. I'll sing it for you all. And what does that mean, Monique?
That's a great question, Stephanie. So we are shifting. There are different people with different ideas of when that actually starts. But we're definitely moving out of this age of Pisces. And Pisces is, thought to have begun with more of that Christian narrative around Christ. And if you'll notice in that era, there's a lot of talk about fishermen. Pisces represent the fish. And it was that opportunity for that type of spirituality. So now as we move into Aquarius, we have a different opportunity for spirituality. We have more of this kind of, delving into what we would say more non-traditional concepts. You'll see that there's been a renewed interest in everything from astrology to alternative healing modalities. It's that kind of innovation. Kim, you had a question. I see it bubbling over. Keep going.
I'm bubbling over with this because when you speak, of course, of healing, plants, holistic health, turning to nature, that evolution that we're experiencing, Jeffrey Chen of the Cannabis Wellness Initiative in Los Angeles, he's recoined the song Age of Aquarius. This is the dawning of the age of cannabis. I just want to throw that in there.
That's great. Yeah.
But we truly are moving into this age and space. And I remember from our chat yesterday, you said it's not quite now the age of Aquarius, but probably more towards the end of 2021 is the real shift or epiphany. Where are we?
I will say that to clarify, I really have no dates for the start of Age of Aquarius. It's usually transitional, but I would say the end of next year is when we have this kind of wrapping up with the Pluto-Saturn cycle. Yeah, so we'll be kind of out of that by then. We have a few, we have this year, we have next year. And there will be lots of shifts, like right now, Saturn jumped into Aquarius, and he will be back in Capricorn. So there is going to be a lot of different opportunities. And I think we were talking a little bit about eclipses as well. And that is also something that creates a lot of shifts. And we have a summer of eclipses coming up. We have one that happened on June 5th, which was a lunar eclipse.
I remember.
Yes. And that was, when it comes to lunar eclipses, they're usually a great opportunity for endings. Especially, it's also a great opportunity with the moon. to kind of revisit or reset ourselves emotionally. And then we have a solar eclipse coming up on the 21st, the 20th, 21st, depending on where you are. And usually solar eclipses are, again, it's, it's going to be the sun and the moon both in the same sign. So it's going to be a very powerful moment to kind of seed intentions and to start things. And so you'll see a lot of times, going back to the kings of ancients, they were very much focused on solar eclipses because it usually was the change of guard, so to speak, this kind of stepping down or being replaced. So it will be interesting to see what we have happen. It will be in Cancer, this solar eclipse, and Cancer is really about the feminine. So it will give us a chance to really examine what nurtures us. What do we need to go forward with that will nurture us? So, and we have this kind of eclipse. We have one on July 4th. So June 5th. God bless you, Kim.
God bless you
June
too.
21st, July 4th. These are all eclipses. So we will, and then, we're ending one eclipse cycle, which is the Cancer Capricorn cycle. And then we also started the Gemini Sagittarius eclipse cycle, and that was June 5th. So they're kind of simultaneously moving in. The Capricorn Cancer axis is about what nurtures us versus what we give authority to, power to. It has to do, again, with the masculine and the feminine, creating a balance between the masculine and the feminine. It has to do with work and home, like work-life balance, a lot of all the things that we're talking about now. So these are the times to think about how we balance even our intuition with our practical life. And that really resonates with me because I think that for spirituality to really have an impact, it has to be something that's practical for everyone's day to day, or it's just something that sounds wonderful, or it's out there and it's not this, center of our life. So there's a lot of things for us to think about, and these, cosmic shifts give us an opportunity to reframe how we think about things.
Next time we pick up a calendar or choose a calendar, let's make sure it has the moon cycles on it, at least, so we know, right? And on some level, new moon, full moon, those type of cycles.
Yes.
And that's in its simplest form as it relates to our day-to-day. Looking at the cycle of the moon, or looking at the cycle of bringing the spirituality into our life practically, when do we set our intentions? When's the best time to set our intention and start activating our highest purpose and tuning in?
Great question. I love that question. Well, intentions should be something that we focus on a daily basis. We should set intentions every day. If nothing else, is a good practice for intention setting, right? Get into the habit of seeding the universe with what you desire. And then outside of that, a great time to seed your intention would be on the new moon. The new moon is, there's a lot of this kind of sense of fresh start. And there's a little bit more harmony in the cosmos, typically because you have the sun and the moon right next to each other in the same sign. So it's a little bit more advantageous to seed your intentions at the new moon. And then 2 weeks later, you see how it comes to fruition with the full moon.
Yeah. Very interesting. I never.
And you can do that with eclipses too, because eclipses have a little wider span. You know, I always tell people that eclipses are like a full moon or a new moon on steroids. So with an eclipse, you can look at more of a 6-month mark. So if you look at, we had an eclipse December 26, 2019, and what happened around that time, you kind of seeing coming to life now in June, and the eclipses that we're having now, we can see how it will seed for the next 6 months. So you can be very intentional around using the energy that way. You can use your, solar eclipses as a moment to seed a new intention. You can use your lunar eclipses as a way to think about what no longer serves you. So
the eclipse with the 6-month cycle might be the time to really set the intention for a greater change or purpose, as opposed to the daily intention, which is our daily activation or goals, shall we say. So short-term and long-term?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Short-term and long-term, and just a great practice in being present and just kind of owning our power, and understanding also that there is that kind of support that we have from the universe. So that's important. Yeah. I mean, it's comforting to know that. That's the other thing about astrology. You're not alone. You're not alone. There are, each and every one of us has a singular, important purpose to serve. And when we're all showing up, it makes our lives a better experience, and it makes the world a better place. So yeah, we're not alone. We're definitely interconnected with the universe. We're interconnected with each other. And we're just learning how to shine individually as our own stars in the universe.
That's beautiful. Oops, there we go. Have you heard the Priscilla Ahn? A-H-N is her last name. Priscilla Ahn. Her song is called We Are Stars.
No, but I'll definitely write it down and I'll listen to it.
Beautiful. It embraces what you just said.
Yes.
As if it's a divine message we all need to hear, whether it's through a conversation with girlfriends like this webinar, or music, or just being reminded that we're not alone and we're all stars together in the universe.
Yeah, and we're meant to shine. That's what stars do. That's the beauty of astrology, and supporting people in that understanding, what their potential is, and how they want to move towards expressing that. So.
Beautiful. And Monique, how do you work with this professionally? What kind of services do you offer?
Well, I am right now, the other thing that I do is that I teach tarot. So right now what I'm doing is taking a little break, because I've been trying to write a workbook to my tarot classes for 2 years. And this is the first opportunity that I've had to kind of sit still and create that work. So that's really where I'm focused on now. But coming soon, definitely there will be space to work with people. Yes. And I'm always open to answer anyone's questions. If they have questions, I'd be happy to answer them. They can reach out to me. I'm open to answer any questions anyone has. But just give me a little bit more time. I'm almost finished. I have 2 more chapters left.
Beautiful. And I understand you're also a Well-World TV host.
Yes, I'm going to be starting that. I'm very excited and looking forward to kind of creating a platform to share some more of these kinds of ideas, because it's really about healing. I know a lot of times we talk about healing from a physical level, but we're more than just a physical being. We're, a spiritual being having a human experience. So we really have an opportunity to look at different modalities that support us holistically and not just limited to the physical.
That's beautiful. That's one of my favorite euphemisms is what you said about being spiritual.
Yeah. And we're all spiritual. Some people say, are you more, there are some more people more spiritual? No, we're all spiritual beings. So we're all spiritual, and we're all having, if you're here, all having a human experience. So, and making most of it. A lot of times we downplay our humanity. For me, I think the purpose of spirituality is to return us to our humanity. So I don't downplay this human experience. It's a privilege, it's an honor to be here with everyone on the planet at this time. We all kind of RSVP'd at the same time. So we're all here for the party, and hopefully we're enjoying it as much as we can, even in these very turbulent times. That there's something that we can get out of it to help move us forward.
It's as above, so below.
Yes.
It's
beautiful.
And to quote, you said we're spiritual beings. Monique, you said we're spiritual beings in a human presence.
Yes.
Or human experience. Spiritual beings in a human experience.
Yes, we are. And we should not make light of that. It's such it's a wonderful opportunity.
Yes.
And it is an honor. And I'm not joking. I'm really always, no matter if someone's pushing my button, sometimes especially if they're making me uncomfortable, these are and of course the people that love me, but everyone is invited to the party to help support me in my growth on some level, and I invited them to the party. So,
That's it.
just learn. It's just shifting your lens and looking at every situation differently.
Perception.
Perception is the key. Yeah. So, any other questions?
I have one question. I feel that I am the quintessential Sagittarius, but you're telling me I'm unique.
You're the quintessential Sagittarian, is that what you said?
Sagittarius, yeah, I really identify with that.
Oh, so we have a wonderful panel. We have a Sag and a Gemini, 2 Sages and a Gemini. Lovely.
Are you a Sag as well?
I'm a Gemini, but Miss Kim is a Sag.
Oh, yes, we're Sagittarius sisters.
Well, you are a quintessential Sag in that you feel close to some of the Sag traits, correct? Okay, so what's your question about being this bright ball of energy and fire as a Sagittarian?
Some days.
That's human.
I'm just curious because we did talk about this in the beginning, like when we read horoscopes, and are they just more generalized to make us feel connected? Because I'm like, this makes sense every time I read them.
No, it's not necessarily just to make us feel connected. That is a part of who you are. That's your sun sign that you're reading. So yes, maybe in your chart, your sun is very strong or in a good position, or it's having good relationships with other planets. So for you, maybe in your life, your Sag energy, you really do identify and express through that sun Sag energy. Or it could be that you're Sag with a Sag rising. So I don't know, so there could be other reasons why that sign is very much something that you resonate with. But for example, I have a friend and she has, I think 4 planets in Cancer in her 12th house. And so a lot of times I will say to her, if you're unsure about how to move, how to feel, how to think, because these are the planets that she has in this section, and the 12th house is all about what you don't see. So you feel kind of unsure. So if her Mars is in the 12th house, if her Venus is in the 12th house, and sometimes she feels like she's unsure of how to move forward or how to feel about something, I will say read Cancer. Read Cancer.
Okay.
Right? Or if somebody has a strong moon, so for example, your sun sign is Sag. I don't know your moon sign, but let's say your moon sign is Cancer, right? So when it comes to your feeling nature, how you approach the world emotionally, I could say to you, well, go read the horoscope for Cancer, because then you may resonate more with that from an emotional level.
Are there sites that you recommend for reading horoscopes or publications?
Yeah, there are a lot. I mean, oh my gosh, now this is, as we talked about the shift, there are a lot of really great sites out there that you can go to. There is astro.com.
Okay.
There are the Astro Twins. I'm trying to think where else, but I mean, there are a lot of great places that you can go on the internet. Astro.com is really great. What I would really encourage people, because I really feel like, in the next few years, everybody will really step beyond their horoscope and start really to delve into their chart. I would tell people to, even if you're not familiar with the signs and the symbols, there's usually some explanation below the chart that will give you what the signs mean and what the planet symbols are, so you won't be lost. I would encourage people to start casting their natal chart and just start looking at it.
A wonderful resource, and one of my favorites, is actually the community, the complimentary webinars that Monique is building herself. I've been on some of her complimentary webinars, Stephanie, where we calculate through the numbers of our birth and that. And Monique, please, I'm probably not delivering this quite accurately, but it's through Monique's guidance and her complimentary webinars through Facebook, Being in Touch, or her business name or her group name is Being in Touch on Facebook, or Monique Blake on Facebook. These complimentary webinars that she hosts have been very helpful to help each person calculate their rising sign and those ways to start understanding the natal chart personally.
Yes, and I plan to do more of those in the future. I did a few of them in the beginning because of some of the astrological shifts that were going on, to just help people understand how to stand in their power. Right. Because this is a moment when so many of us are feeling powerless. And it's hard to see when we're overwhelmed with all of this change that is so drastic. That there is a place for us to stand in our power. And so one of the workshops that I did was just combining the tarot and astrology and having people look at their power cards and their card for 2020. And it was fun, it was free. We had a lot of people show up. The hardest thing was you didn't have to have any background or knowledge in astrology or tarot. The hardest thing was doing the calculation, simple addition. But because again, so much of what's going on has been so overwhelming for people that was actually the most difficult part of the class.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So definitely there is real opportunity for people to start getting a feel of who they are from an astrological point of view. And a good place to start would be just casting your natal chart and the information that you need, your birthday and year, which most of us know, and also the time of birth, which is the most important piece, and also our place of birth. So having an accurate time makes a big difference in the chart. And so once you have plug in that type of information, and you can do that on astro.com. It's free. You can do that. You can start just looking at your chart. And then when you show up for a reading, you're a little bit more clear about what you want to know. And you can get right to the point.
And what is the name of your group on Facebook where you offer these free courses?
I did share the link.
On Facebook, there it is. Thank you, Stephanie. You're on it.
Yes. Incorporated, is that?
Yes, yes, Inc. On. You could also Monique Blake. I'm on Facebook. You can find me there as well. So whichever one resonates with you, I'm on both.
Yeah. Jessica, did you have a question? Do you want to type it in the chat? We had someone raise their hand. So, ladies, we have wonderful planetary plans for the weekend.
Sweet way to ask. Gardening, getting grounded, barefoot in the dirt.
Oh, that's good. Tomorrow is Global Wellness Day.
Oh, that's right. Yes. I did a call on that on Monday with Belgan.
Yes.
How was that? She's so lovely.
It was a wonderful call. If you'd like to see it, you can go to our YouTube, Well World TV. It's already up. And she's got some amazing things planned. I mean, it's a big undertaking. I know from doing these webinars to make everything virtual for the day. So they'll be live streaming for over 24 hours with time zone changes. So
wow,
that's a production.
Lance Bass is joining them, and Reba McEntire, and some other surprises. So it should be entertaining and some wonderful speakers too. So I do look forward to that tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thank
you
for sharing.
I think one of the things that is coming out of our present situation, global situation, is that people are discovering that, and it happens with pandemics, usually post-pandemic, there's a surge of creativity. So just looking at creative energy, not only as an outlet and as an expression, but also as a form of healing, as a part of your wellness. So that's what I'll be doing tomorrow, spending time with my paint and doing some creative stuff.
I'll actually share this with you all at 4 EST. I'm joining a paint class on Zoom, and it's called the International Sisterhood Society, but they do a different activity every week. So if you'd like to join us at 4 EST.
Zoom?
It's going to be on Zoom, and we're painting watermelon, I think, today.
I love that.
I'll share the link if you have it. Yes. You only need watercolor, so.
So you're both painting. I gotta get my easel and brush out.
Painting and writing. It's bringing this back to astrology. Yes. Venus is in retrograde.
Okay.
And so a lot of times people talk about Venus retrograde as a time when past ex-lovers come back into their life, which is not unusual, or they talk about it as not the best time to do any kind of cosmetic or radical change in your looks, which is all true for a Venus retrograde. But the other thing that a Venus retrograde can help with is going back to past creative projects. So, if there's anything that you started or wanted to do or thought about, and you just never had the space to do, a Venus retrograde is a great time to revisit anything that is creative. So that's the other secret of a Venus retrograde.
Beautiful.
Yes. Do we have any questions? I'm curious to know if anyone out there.
Jessica did raise her hand, but she hasn't put her question in the chat. Well, I really enjoyed this call. If there were no questions, Monique, and people may want to connect with you privately through your Facebook, and we also shared your LinkedIn. So this was Planet-Based Healing, Planets in the Cosmos, a deeper understanding to life's purpose. And you were just with Monique Blake, who is a certified Ayurvedic practitioner and strength finder coach. And your hosts were Kim Collier, co-founder of Collier Concepts, myself, Stephanie Rest, founder of Caribbean Weed Consulting. Project Positive Planet is a collaboration of Well World TV, We Consulting, and Papelia. And thank you to our sponsor, Collier Concepts.
Thank you. Such an amazing and interesting conversation.
Monique, I really enjoyed it.
I did. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for showing up.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. This is always a fun time to talk about astrology, and I'm happy to be here. And I wish you all well. Keep safe, be happy, and we're going to get through this together.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold you to that November 3rd, Monique. I will find you.
Okay. I'll send you my address. You won't. I'll send you my address. You can come visit me.
I would love that. Take care, everyone. Happy weekend.
Same to you. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.